what the Brooklyn Nets had at the time with Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett than it actually was to like the Miami Heat big three that we've, come to love it or hate. But yeah, Dwight Howard, absolutely one of the best big men. We've seen such a second wind to his career since coming back to the Lakers, won that championship where he actually played a really vital role. I'll tell you guys right now. So this is an important stat to remember. Over 13,000 rebounds and over 2,000 blocks in his career. The only other players in NBA history to do that. Tim Duncan, Kevin Durant, Shaq, Hakeem, Robert Parrish, and Kareem. That is an elite group, all guys that were on that top 75 list, and somehow we're leaving out Dwight Howard. I'm not saying that he belongs up there with Shaq or that he belongs in the top 25. I'm not saying he belongs in the top 50, but give my guy somewhere in the 60s. This is a guy, he was one of the best big men that we've seen. He was so dominant in his prime. He was winning slam dunk. Like, dude, this guy was amazing. He was just built completely different. But I want to say, and this is where it bothers me, right? Because Anthony Davis, how dare you have the audacity to walk into this top 75 list? Because you're not even – there's a different Lakers big man, and I'm not talking about Dwight Howard this time, but there's a different Lakers big man that I think deserved to be on this list instead of Anthony Davis. His name is Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol deserves to be on this list, and let me tell you why. This is a man with 2 titles, and he has 4 All-NBA selections as well as 6 All-Star appearances. He has a better resume than Anthony Davis does. He has a better resume than Damian Lillard does. All these active players and these new school ideas that these guys belong in the top 75, I get it. I get that Damian Lillard is one of the most entertaining players to walk the earth nowadays. But still, Pau Gasol, 21st all-time in blocks, 28th all-time in rebounds, 39th in scoring, and 124th in assists. But still, this was a guy that could get it done on both sides of the floor. And he was also very, very influential at the time for international play. The things that he did in international play for the country of Spain is miraculous. It revitalized what we thought of the big man position, because this wasn't a guy that was built like I said, like a Dwight Howard. He didn't have like all these muscles on him. He was just a lean guy that could get the job done. And when you're talking about that Lakers run for the NBA title in the early 2010s and the 2009 season to 2010, or even in 2012, you're talking about a guy that he didn't need any other superstar besides Kobe Bryant. There was no big three. Ron Artest wasn't part of a big three. Andrew Bynum wasn't part of a big three. This was, the classic pick and roll with Kobe and Pau. That's how you won the title back then, was just hard play and the right principles. And Pau Gasol is one of my favorite players of all time, so I am biased. I'm not afraid to admit it. But these are 2 guys. I think the big man position is so undervalued when it comes to making up this position. I don't see what Anthony Davis did throughout any point in his career that Pau Gasol or Dwight Howard didn't end up doing.
I 100% agree. I would say a little bit on the Damian Lillard slander. I'm not ready to put Pau Gasol as a better player.
The man doesn't even have a single NBA Finals appearance.
This man has never had an All-Star ever until there was LaMarcus Aldridge, and then it's been a cliff ever since he's been on that team. Yeah. Look at all these other players. Every single player that has been named on these top 75 players list has had a guy on their team who is decent enough to bring them to that level of playoff competition. The point guard position is super hard, and I think that Damian Lillard, staying with the same team too, you got to give him credit. But I do think there's one player that you're not kind of given enough credit for being on the fringe of this list. And I actually had to look up. I hate to say my NBA knowledge is not as strong as I wanted it to be. Billy Cunningham. Does anybody here know who Billy Cunningham is?
That's an old school player.
Heard of him.
Yes, he played with the 76ers for about 9 seasons, and then he played in the ABA for 2 years with the Carolina Cougars. Right? Yeah, the 70s. He played in the 60s and 70s. He's a 4-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, and a 1967 NBA champion. Is he better than Dwight Howard? Is he better than Pau Gasol? I'm not saying that I watched this guy play, but just from looking at the accomplishments, what they did, impact on the NBA itself, I would go more towards, I mean, look at how Dwight Howard was able to revolutionize how that center position was played from an offensive standpoint in that in the late 2000s with the Magic. That get in the post, get the ball, pop it out. They hadn't seen that since Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan. Those were the kind of guys who did that. So when he brought it to the modern NBA with the idea of three-point shooting as a more impactful way with Stan Van Gundy over in Orlando, Dwight Howard was arguably one of the top 3 players in the NBA in his prime. And I think you're right on the nose with that. He doesn't get the credit. And same with Powell. Those are guys who, Kobe is the star player on that team, but if they don't have Pau Gasol and beating the Celtics in that game 7, it doesn't happen. Kobe went 9 for 24 or something bad like that, and it was Pau who was able to bring him to the promised land. So I 100% agree with you on those 2 picks.
Yeah. What's your concluding thoughts over there?
Look. Pau Gasol 1,000%. Okay, there's no argument there. Everything he said about Pau Gasol was on the mark. And I'm not even going to argue that Dwight Howard shouldn't be on the top 75. I even agree with you there. But you gave me such a reaction for Klay Thompson, and you go ahead and give this big introduction. And you give this big introduction for Dwight Howard. Like, I thought you were going to say somebody I'm like, wait, Michael Jordan's already on the list. Like, that was such a great introduction. And
Klay Thompson.
And you say Dwight Howard. You understand? I mean, Dwight Howard deserves to be on the list. Yes, he I could probably name a couple of the OGs, like you mentioned, Billy Cunningham. Guys like that. He deserves to be on the list somewhere. Mm-hmm. However, you made a good argument for Vince Carter. That's what I heard. We're talking about a guy that had 2 careers, basically. One as a really dominant center, and because of that, and only because of that, he deserves to be on this list. And he's turned into a really good role player, but let's be honest. I mean, he's just, is Dwight Howard on your fantasy team, or is he picked up, or is he on the waiver wire?
He's not even on the Lakers right now. They're not even playing him.
It's been like this for a while, so he deserves to be on that list. It's just the reaction you gave me for Klay Thompson, and then you turn around and say Dwight Howard, and with such introduction, you gave it like a WWE entrance, like The Rock was coming out or something. It was unbelievable.
They're playing the John Cena music. Dwight Howard walking out to the court. Dwight Howard would honestly, a little crossover there. If Dwight Howard wanted to quit in the NBA and go join the WWE, I wouldn't be opposed to that. That would be pretty interesting.
That little stuff where he got into Anthony Davis, that's not doing him any favors, but
No.